Good evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
This is going to be our spoiler-filled, instantly after the episode review, reaction, wild speculation of the Skeleton Crew. This is episode 8, the finale. The Real Good Guys is what this one is called. This was Wim's line in this episode. I've been trying to keep track of who says the line.
Oh, okay.
Once I started kind of figuring it out. To be fair, this is the first time during the episode I figured it out. It was after, like, later on when we done the reviews. I'm like, oh no, that was Fern's line, or that was Wendell's line, or whatever. Okay, so we have been talking about the entire way a couple of different things. One, what happens when everybody gets to At-Aten? How is this all going to be resolved? Two, what's going to happen once the outside galaxy learns about At-Aten? 3, who Jod really is. Is he redeemable? Is he just a poopy head? And ultimately,
and
we
who
got
the supervisor is.
And who the supervisor is. That would be 4. Subsection 6. We got some of those answers.
Right.
And I am way okay with the answers that we got and the ones that we didn't get.
Yeah, I mean, it leaves some stuff open for an additional season or seasons, or just not explaining. Like Jod kind of alluded to who he was, but didn't come right out and say it was Order 66. He just said, and they made me watch while they killed her.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I
think that's Inquisitors.
Yeah, because I don't recall that happening.
The way he approached it, we're just gonna jump on right in. By the way, the way he approached it was, he was telling Wim, I wasn't much more than your age, on the streets, and a Jedi came along and saw that I had potential. A raggedy, rundown, disheveled Jedi, or whatever, is how he worded it in that kind of way.
Yeah, just almost as bad off as me, or something like that.
Yeah, and that gives me the idea that maybe that person was on the run. And then my instinct was, it was Ahsoka, because we know Ahsoka was able to survive 66 and everything that happened or whatever. But whenever he says she, that's always the first female Jedi that everybody is going to go to. But then when he said they tracked her down and forced me to watch them kill her, that's instantly Inquisitors. That's
right.
That's the Inquisitors.
That's because like I was saying, I don't recall them ever saying Order 66. When Order 66 was happening, that they forced younglings and Padawans or whatever to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just kind of all out.
Yeah,
killing everybody.
Killing everybody who had a lightsaber and any kind of force abilities. There it is, one.
Okay.
So the idea that we've been discussing is that he was an Order 66 survivor. And the way they present it here is he was not an actual at the Jedi Academy kind of thing. He was living on the streets.
Yeah.
Which goes to my kind of conversation that I have been having, is it's A or B for me with Jod. And B was, he just was never discovered because his parents disowned him, died,
right,
whatever,
right.
And so he was living on the streets. And in other storytelling, we've gotten these Jedi who have survived Order 66, whatever way you want to talk about, and then ultimately find others with potential. Ahsoka did it with Sabine. Baylan Skoll did it with Shin. Kanan did it with Ezra. Like, there's all these different versions of that story. So to kind of get that little highlight, But what ultimately came out of that is what the Inquisitors did to a lot of Force sensitive kids who were forced to watch their masters die essentially without being able to do anything, was to try to pull them towards the dark side, towards them, and it didn't stick. Jod even said, "I don't want to hurt anybody." Like he later on, he says, "I don't want to hurt anybody."
Right.
So he has, he
But I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much I buy that because he shot his second
Brutus.
Brutus.
Yeah,
I was gonna say Rufus, and I knew that
It's
wasn't
close,
right.
it's
It's
close.
close. So I mean,
I think that's just I think that was just a power play. But he also says in that moment, like, I just want what I. There's so much darkness out in the galaxy. There's only small pinpricks of light, and I want to hold on to those pinpricks as much as I can. And so him finding that treasure and that moment of joy that we got in the previous episode
Yeah.
was that small pinprick of the galaxy that has stepped all over him.
yeah, but I mean, he did it too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he was doing it too, and your pinprick of joy could have been, helping these kids get back, or being the good guy, and
Yeah,
instead he chose the treasure, which is,
He did not break the cycle of violence.
right.
And that's a lesson that that's a lesson that we haven't really gotten in Star Wars. The idea of it's up to somebody to say no. I'm not going to do what other people did to me.
You could say Kylo did that in the end.
In the
but-
end, yeah, part of his redemption was
Yeah.
was kind of that. There's a whole bunch of layers of problems with Kylo that led to him being manipulated into doing what he ended up
Well,
doing.
yeah,
But-
everybody's got a journey.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't just, you're not just born like, I'm gonna be a bad guy.
Yeah,
There's a journey to get there. So
one of the things we talked about when the episode was going on was the last episode ended with Jod pulling out the lightsaber and standing in front of the parents and the kids, and we all speculated for a week about what that could mean or what could possibly happen, because he's a meanie head and he threatened to harm the parents.
Right.
And so leaving that on that cliffhanger, that there's this possibility that he could possibly hurt the parents. What ultimately he was doing at the start of this episode, they picked up right where they left off,
Right.
and he had the lightsaber out and a bow, and he takes on the full persona of the Republic emissary.
right.
And so it's an intimidation thing for the kids.
Yeah.
But then also the polite society thing to do for the parents.
Right. And the parents, they don't know any better. So, if he had pulled the lightsaber out and said, I'm going to kill you all if you don't, whatever, then everybody knows, right? It's out there in the open. But as it was, the parents think he is who he says he is.
Yeah.
And only the kids know better.
Yeah, and I like that with the threat of that he levied over the kids, that I will harm your parents, and then in that scene the Fern tried to say something to Mom that he was kind of lying, and Jod instantly picked up on it. He's wise upon his ear, up beyond his years, and told the droids that the kids should be sequestered to quarters, that they should be watched,
Yeah.
like all this stuff. Because I think at that point in time, Jod knew that Atten was run by the system, the droid system,
Yeah.
and that the supervisor was just the big computer in the sky.
Yeah. He might have had an idea that might be what's going on. I mean, he genuinely didn't know when he got up there because he was like, "You guys are just run by a droid." And,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but he may have had an inkling before then.
And Farah, who's Fern's mother, had that moment of, well, yeah,
Yeah.
like she knew,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Having Stephen Fry's smoothie voice be the supervisor was awesome. We need more Stephen Fry in Star Wars.
Yep.
But I just, that whole Jod playing, using the mechanics of what, I don't know how to word this, using the system against the system.
Right. They've been showing us that he can do that the whole time. As a matter of fact, we commented on it when he was on the pleasure planet, whatever,
Yeah.
that he is able to kind of absorb a situation and react to it in real time.
Yeah.
Which, pays off in this last episode where he's just like, oh yeah, he did it when they landed and they were like, oh, emissary, and he's like, yes, I am. So they've been showing us that the whole time.
Yeah. I just like that he is a villain. He is okay, I won't say villain. He is a bad guy.
He's a pirate.
He's a pirate. He's a pirate, but he's also smart.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times we get pirates who are just kind of dumb, and we had some dumb pirates in this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
You kind of have to. It's like a prerequisite.
Yeah.
Of pirate-y stories. But
the captain, like, generally in like Pirates of the Caribbean, and the captains are usually, that's how they became captain. They were the smartest out of not a great lot of smarts. So, I mean, our for us, they may be like, this guy's dumb, but out of the Pickens, they're the smartest.
Yeah.
Jod just happens to be really smart.
Really smart and quick-witted and charming and handsome, and so he uses all of those things and hides his Force abilities until he absolutely has to use them.
Yeah, because then people start having questions.
And then start having questions. And he's also kind of make it sound like he knows. I mean, if he watched his Jedi teacher, die to the Inquisitors, he may still feel fear that those people are out there.
Yeah.
Even though it's the New Republic and not the Republic itself,
right?
Palpatine's Republic. So there might be a little bit of that. I'm going to hide it as much as I can unless I absolutely have to use it.
Yeah.
In the scene where we find out what the supervisor is, Fern finally just starts coming out to her mom, and her mom the entire way was just like Wendell, so set in this is the way it has to be, and the reason it has to be like this is because the galaxy itself is terrible, and we're protecting it for the kids.
Yeah, and I feel because the parents have all been on the planet, and their worldview hasn't changed. They've been on the planet.
Yeah.
The kids are the ones that left and saw what the real world is like and had this adventure and came back. So now they're like, the kids are the ones that the kids are the real heroes, right? They're you expect it to be the parents or the supervisor or whatever, but it ends up being the kids because they're the ones that take the reins and no, we got this, even though their parents are arguing with them pretty much the whole way.
They're being good parents. They want to protect
their
heart.
But they don't understand that the kids have now been, like, when they get on the ship and Wendell's like, wait, you can fly this? And they're like, how do you think we got here? We've been flying this thing for weeks. Yeah. So, they don't understand that the kids have seen some poo.
I was going to say that too.
And come back, and they're not the same kids that left. So
it's very much the hobbits returning to Hobbiton.
Yeah.
That they have changed. Hobbiton hasn't changed, but the hobbits have.
Right.
And now their view of the world is very different.
Yep.
And it was even Fern talking to her mom. Her mom was like, "We can't take the barrier down. It's keeping us safe from the outside galaxy.
Yeah.
There's such bad out there." And Fern's like, "No matter where we went, no matter what happened, we still found good guys.
Yep.
There's still good people out there." And the first thing that came to my mind was when they first landed at Tartuga,
Right.
the pirate
Planet,
stronghold or
yeah.
whatever, and the pleasure palace woman like was properly trying to keep them safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the moment, it feels really sketchy because everybody's trying to go after the kids,
Yep.
and they've heard
You don't
about
know.
Aunt Atten, and there's real Old Republic credit, like there's
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And so that idea that there was like it was a very simple example in the moment that we all misinterpreted because we haven't seen the whole story.
Yeah.
But Kim was the same way. It was the same way when they with SM-33 choosing the kids over Jod. Like there was multiple small examples that built up to this moment of Fern saying, "No, there is good out there."
Yeah.
And we can't win this fight on our own. We need help, and I know how to get help.
Yeah.
We have to take the barrier down.
Yep. Yep.
And then the whole fight with Jod and the kids and Wendell and Farah and the Chekhov's giant handle in the background
And Wim lighting the lightsaber right way up this
the
time.
right way up this time. Learning. I love the Wendell stepping up and punching Jod after Wim tried to pull the handle, and then Jod threatened his dad.
Yeah.
And he finally gets he's standing there, he's sitting there, and he's listening to Jod's dissertation, whatever,
Yeah.
latest thing. And he just picks his hand, kind of comes
Yeah.
up, and he's got a fist, and he's like, "I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this." And Wim's like looking at him like, what are you doing? And then I
Who are
love
you?
that they stay on Jod.
You just see a fist.
And you just see a blurry fist in the background, and then he punches them out. And then there's this melee. And the melee of Jod using force abilities versus certain people and holding on to Wendell and making sure he doesn't grab the handle. And
Yeah.
all that, just that whole exchange of how do you overpower somebody who can use the force? Well, first you have to surprise him. That's how he gets rid of the lightsaber.
Yeah.
And now you have to team up on him.
Yeah.
And the team up was the parents coming to the realization at that point in time that we all have to work together to keep each other safe, not just the kids safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were so huddled down and cuddling their kids or coddling their kids
Yeah.
or fighting them behind them that they wouldn't get into the fight. And then when they finally had an opportunity to get in the fight, they did, and Wendell was not the person I thought was going to be the one to do it. I thought it was going to be Neil's mom who was going to be in this whole thing.
Yeah, and she was. I mean, you saw her, but she wasn't in it at all.
The
Oh my god!
the speeder bikes.
Yes, but Neil's twin baby brothers are the most adorable freaking thing on the earth. Oh my god!
We are going back to Disneyland in end of March, 1st of April. If we can't get the plushies of those two, there's going to be riots. Like, if I'm in Galaxy's Edge and they're sitting there, I'm getting them. I don't care. Oh my god, they'll sit on the shelf. I know, but I don't care. But the speeder bike thing was awesome because the kids all figured out they could use the speeder bikes when all the power went
Yep.
down. And Wendell's like, "No, the power will come back up. It's fine." And like he was still
You're
in that-
gonna get hurt. No speeder bikes, and trying to get Wim into the car, to safety, and Wim and the kids are all like, "No, we need to go. We need to formulate a plan, and we need to go," because that's what they've been doing this whole time.
Yeah.
Formulating a plan and going and executing the plan to get out or in or whatever, and yeah, so they just see ya.
yeah. And I love Wendell just getting on the other bike and just chasing him down. And then he tried to like he tried to reason with them for like a hot second when
Yeah.
he caught up with them, and then they're like, "Nope, we're going." And then the pirates are firing at them. They've been firing at the planet the whole time. They've taken the planet hostage. Jod wants to make them essentially slave labor to make more gold.
Yep.
Endless riches. Back to that whole line earlier.
Yep.
But they cut through the forest, and the ravine that actually
Yeah.
started the whole thing. KB said just hit full blast when you hit it.
Yeah.
And I love Wendell playing keeping up and playing along. Wait, I'm heavier than you. Just trust KB. Okay. And they all make the jump, and then they all land and have a moment of we made it. That was awesome. Oh wait, there's still bad guys. Okay.
We gotta go.
Neil getting taken out of the school. Now, some people have been talking about the Chekhov's giant gun on the school roof since
At Akron.
at Akron, Ohio, which is what they've been calling it a force center, and I can't get it out of my head. And so, yes, it felt like that was going to come back around, but especially once the frigate got through the barrier,
Right.
and they needed to get some kind of something out, and so when they formulate this plan to take the Onyx Cinder out. Neil gets taken out by the speeder. He realizes he can get some cover because he was the only one who saw the big giant gun.
Right. Which I would like to know why. Why do they have those
Yeah.
on the school?
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably been just sitting there this whole time. Like nobody probably even knew it was there
Yeah.
because they've been there for forever and
Yeah.
lost in in time or whatever. But at some point in time, they all those planets felt they needed that, which is interesting.
Yeah, especially when we were at Akron. You saw the remnants in the sky of the barrier things, and so the dead satellites that hold
Yeah,
the barrier.
yeah.
And so, like, was that gun like a secondary defense? And
Right,
or is
but
there other guns? Why was it on top of the school?
Right.
Because what you need is a bunch of kids stumbling across the big giant gun. And
Well, I mean, they probably wouldn't because it was under a
right,
thing.
right.
But it's like did they put them on the planets when they first started these mines
Yeah,
as defense, and then realized it was all whoever they are, the Republic, the old Republic, whatever, and realized it was all too big, and so they camouflaged the or maybe some of them started getting taken out, and so they camouflaged the rest. Like, it's all very unclear as to
yeah.
how that all came about.
I would be cool if they did a book of the 7 planets,
Yeah,
like that, kind of just to kind of flesh out why these were all created and in what time period. Because we keep saying Old Republic credits, but Old Republic in the show could mean anything before Palpatine's Republic.
right.
So it could be the Old Republic as in the game that we know of in the real world, or it could be the High Republic time period, which they didn't call it the High Republic in canon,
universe,
in
yeah,
universe.
yeah.
And so it would be very cool to kind of tell that story of why those were all built, and then why they were all cordoned off from each other, and how they all came.
Well,
down
and it's, I mean, if they are, because we were kind of talking about, like, they wrapped this whole thing up. You don't feel like if they don't do any more, like, you didn't get a conclusion, but there are still a lot of questions enough that they could do more.
Yeah.
And that could be part of it. They don't have to solely focus on how those planets came to be, but they could give you that information in,
Mix in some
in
dialogue
and
yeah,
stuff.
Yeah.
But I just wonder, like, how they can keep the Goonies, E.T. kind of feel.
Yeah.
Like, what are the kids just going to be, like, the protectors of At-Atten now? Or
Yeah.
and they're still kids.
Let's since we're there, we have to talk about it now. With the barrier coming down and X-wings and B-wings showing up and taking out the frigate, the pirate. They don't show the pirates getting round up. A
Right.
bunch of them escaped. There's possibilities of them going and hiding in the forest. They proved in the Akron episode that there's been some kind of outside influence on that planet. So that's not saying that there's not another town or whatever. And then a Corvette shows up. Now, am I saying it's a Tantive 4? I don't think so because it was different markings, but it is a Corvette. It is a New Republic
Ship.
ship.
Yeah.
And so that's the true emissary. Leaving it with that showing up after the X-wing and the B-wings take out the frigate and the pirates, not giving this moment of tying a bow on it, of all of them getting round up, and here's the emissary and it's Hera or
Right.
C-3PO
Right.
or whatever. Just leaving it wide open like that does leave it open to have a conversation of, okay, there's 1,139 vaults full of gold, old Republic gold. And I talked about this last week about what if XYZ, that theory was crazy. But there's some possibility now because we are in this time period where Leia is still trying to build her own army.
Right.
Even though Mon Mothma has demilitarized the New Republic, Leia is still trying to keep things together.
Right.
And so now there's this influx of cash. Something that was pointed out this week is part of the reason the Old Republic credits are worth so much is because there's scarcity. Mm-hmm. And fresh, new style, new old stock of Old Republics. Well, now if you flood the market with the Old Republic gold credits, it's going to devalue them.
Yep.
And so ultimately, the treasure itself was the friends we made along the way. The money treasure of itself ultimately was going to have less and less value to it. And that's something that I don't think Jod really understood. Jod only saw big piles of cash.
Right.
He didn't see beyond what happens when he gets the big piles of cash. He was only thinking about spending it.
Right. Now, they don't talk about this, and I don't know if they talk about it in something else, but they appear to be made out of a gold-like substance.
Yeah.
And in our world, you could potentially melt them down.
Yeah.
And then use that substance instead of the credits themselves.
Maybe this is how C-3PO gets rid of his red arm and he can get a new gold one. Or no, he has the silver leg. He has a new gold leg and then a red arm by the time we get to A Force Awakens.
Right.
That's how he gets his gold leg back.
Right. They dip it in Old Republic credit juice.
I like too that once so KB and SM-33, yay! SM-33 is back. Her putting him back together and holding his head so he could see and pilot, and then they get shot down, and then they crash. And I love Ryan Kira Armstrong plays Fern, and she gives out this heartbreaking wail of KB.
Yeah.
And the both of us just turned to each other like, "Where's the big fireball?
Yeah.
Where's the? It was a little.
Where
poof
is
of
the
dust.
earth-shattering kaboom?
Yeah.
There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
And so I was like, I'm like, they're not killing KB.
Right? No.
This was not happening. But when they went to go to the school where the Onyx Cinder ended up crashing, that way Neil's already there.
Right.
And it kind of falls into the main room where they were doing all the assessment tests. It pops open and all the gold, all the credits pop out, and to show you how they mean nothing to the people of At-Aten, they just run over. Like it's like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's nothing to
Yeah.
them. Like,
They don't mean anything.
they don't
to
mean
them.
anything to them.
Yeah.
And I think that's another kind of example of ultimately the critics were the MacGuffin to get everything to tell this story, but ultimately they have no value to them.
Right. They don't have any value to Atten, but they do have value to the outside world as they have been shown.
Right. That's
And now that they are open to the outside world, are more bad guys, nefarious people coming to try to steal it, which
Yeah.
I think, now the good guys are there. I don't know what they're are they
the New Republic.
Okay, right. So now they're there
Yeah.
to protect them.
Usher them into the New Republic.
Take the credits. Yeah, we just don't know.
I want so much more storytelling with all of this, with the idea of this is set in the Mandoverse. Like it's the same time as Ahsoka. Like we're
and maybe we'll get some in.
But that's kind of
movie.
like we got the Mando
know.
and Grogu movie coming. And there's been rumors, unsubstantiated rumors from reliable sources, but not like backed by Lucasfilm at all, that characters from this show are going to show up in the Mando and Grogu movie. Now, if it's just Farah and Wim and they're the new, or Farah and Wendell and they're the new supervisors and they're working with the emissaries from the New Republic.
Yeah.
And there's a stop off there for Mando because of something.
Yeah.
You know, he's on a track for something or whatever. Like, okay, that would make sense. You know, telling this overall Mandoverse story.
Yeah.
But I want so much more story with what this means for the greater galaxy at this time.
Yeah. And the planet itself.
And the planet itself. Like, you could come back and tell the kids' college years, you know, or they're getting ready for high school graduation or whatever.
Yeah. I don't.
Wim trying to ask Fern out to prom or whatever. I'm here for all of, like, whatever that was, because you take that kind of Stranger Things kind of tragic events have happened, but the kids are still kids and they still are going to try to do kid stuff.
Yeah.
You could tell that story. I could see where that would go and stuff like that. But I feel like the next story, if they're going to continue with this, and John Watts and Christopher Ford have both said, we have an idea for season 2 and season 3.
Okay.
With the age gap, with the age jump with the kids.
Okay.
If you're going to tell that story, you need to escalate the stakes and you need to broaden the overall story.
Oh yeah.
And so that would be the point where you could bring in Mando, you could bring in Carson Teva, you can bring in Hondo Anaka. Like, you could have these kind of different things.
Yeah.
That would be very interesting.
Yep.
A couple fun things that we got the speeder bike chase through the suburbs. I said if somebody doesn't force pull a van over their heads, then what are we doing? We talked about Wim pulling the lightsaber out and holding it, like, confidently this time.
Yep.
Which is a character arc, which was great.
And the glow on him and Fern was
yeah.
very.
I'm shipping the two of them, by the way. I'm totally shipping the two of them. It'll be she'll be annoyed with him most of the time, like Hermione and Ron, and then there'll be like just a moment all of a sudden. That they just... I fully expected. Not that I wanted it. But I fully expected someone other than Jod to instinctually use the Force. Because we got that example with Sabine in the Ahsoka series, even though that they kind of played with that idea in Rebels and whatever. But I thought at some point in time, Wim, because he wanted to be a Jedi so bad, that he would have force pulled the lightsaber to him or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, it makes more sense. It's not that prevalent.
Yeah.
In the universe.
Yeah.
So to have, a person or several people in every show have, exhibit force tendencies just kind of dilutes that.
It does dilute it. That's why I was like, I'm okay if they don't do it.
Yeah.
Like I was okay if they didn't do it, but I expected it to happen, and I'm glad it was a pleasant surprise that they didn't do
Yeah.
it. Like that was
Yeah,
the other thing.
that's fair.
The idea of the supervisor being the droid, and having it be Stephen Fry, we were kind of all over that from when they first started introducing the idea of the supervisor. The issue I have with the supervisor being a droid is as soon as Jod poked him in the eye, the whole city went offline.
Yeah.
So now the barrier stayed up, and the supervisor's tower stayed powered up because that's how.
It was definitely a flaw in the design.
Yeah.
Which makes you understand why Atten is the only one that survived. There was this giant flaw in the design.
Yeah.
And the only reason it survived is because everybody just kind of, nobody knew where it was.
Yeah.
And they just kind of managed to fly under the radar.
Yeah. And then the story of Atten became legend and not really like known to anybody because I think the supervisor said 10 generations.
Yeah.
So
well, and I think
humans are about 70, 80, 90 years. Let's call it 100. That's 1,000 years back. That's the old republic. Like it's.
Yeah, I think a generation is considered like 30 years.
Okay.
So that would be like 300 because.
And then that's the high republic.
By the time you're 30, you've had a child.
Yeah,
by the time
fair.
that child is 30, they've had a child.
Yeah, that's fine.
So it's like 30. But I was just thinking about it, and the fault of the supervisor, the weakness or whatever. At Akron, we never got an answer, but it felt like it was a internal, like a civil war.
Yeah.
Not an external. And somebody pulled that handle, and now whether that happened before or after, but that has allowed traders and others to come in and trade with the planet, but it was more of an internal
it's very interesting
thing. And so maybe that's why Atten was survived, was because everybody was just like, oh.
We were watching season 2 of Silo, and they dealt with that. They're dealing with that in that conversation there. And it's also something that's been talked about in Fallout. Fallout had different Fallout shelters where they ran different experiments and had different versions of whatever. And some prospered, some had really bad things happen, some had really weird experiments, kind of thing. So that kind of is what my mind kind of went to when they talked about the seven planets and the great works, and like each of them had their own thing that they did, and then we went to Akron and that whole thing, like the Civil War that happened there. Like so there's like I'm very interested. This is why I keep talking about, like, I want more storytelling from this time period.
Yeah.
Or because
we need answers to all these things.
I want to know about all the other planets.
Yeah.
I really, really do. And Jod's still alive. There's I want to know like what's going on with all of that stuff. My one complaint about this entire show. I loved this show. I will go rewatch it right now. We have to finish Silo and Prophecy and Jackal. I would rewatch it right now. But my one major complaint about the show was the timing in which they dropped it. I understand from Disney Plus that people are home during the holidays and they want people to come to their streaming service and everything be done. I'd rather have had this be done the week before Christmas instead of 2 weeks. The finale be the week before Christmas.
Or like January, February, because now we have nothing.
Yeah, we have till April 1st. for Andor, March for Andor.
Yeah.
But I wanted it to end before Christmas, and then everybody would come home for the holidays and like, hey, there's a new Star Wars thing. Let's all sit down and binge watch it.
Yeah.
And all the kids can sit down and watch with it.
Yeah, that would have been good timing.
Because they dropped it on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. It took away a little bit of the momentum I was having for this show.
Yeah.
And it took us the final 2 weeks to kind of get back into the rhythm of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Yep.
And
that's fair.
that's just a personal thing for me, but I think if they had to redo it. Now, this was delayed a year.
Right.
They delayed it a year because they wanted it to be in the holiday season. They gave it time to look amazing. The frigate crashing looked so good.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
But just the timing of it on a personal level, as much as I love Star Wars, I'm gonna choose my family time. It's close. It's a lot closer than you think.
He actually just doesn't really have a choice.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my one major complaint of the show.
Yeah, that's fair.
And we have, like I said, a couple of months till we get to Andor season 2, and we have Last of Us season 2 in April, and so we've got some more of this style of podcasting that we're going to be doing. So what we're asking is, if you're on the Spotify feed, follow us here. You'll get notifications when we upload new long form. Why did I say term? Long form story conversations. And then on the YouTube side too, hit the bell for notifications, hit subscribe. That way when we upload trailer reactions and movie reviews and all that kind of stuff, as we get in that rhythm again. And we're on all the social media stuff: Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok for 5 more days. And I am writing for the Geekiary. I'm doing weekly reviews of this particular show, but I'm also doing weekly articles on all kinds of fun stuff. I'm about to do a Comic-Con Essentials 5-part series on the most important things you need, the things you probably should need, and then like here's the cons and why they're cool and stuff like that. So let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments down below. And until next time, cult members, this was a lot of fun. We want more. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.